Welcome to Unlimiting Your Beliefs, Keys to Greater Success in Your Personal and Professional Life. It is my pleasure to introduce Karen Brown, the host for today's webinar. Karen is the CEO of Velocity Leadership Consulting, a business psychology coaching firm. She is also an author, motivational speaker, ultra athlete, and a graduate of National American University. Throughout her career, Karen has enjoyed leadership positions that have allowed her to bring the best out of other people. But it wasn't until training for and competing in the Ironman World Championship in Kona, Hawaii, that she conquered her own limiting beliefs and began sharing what she had learned with others. Her journey toward discovering these keys will be the focus of today's webinar and where we'll begin our conversation today. Welcome, Karen.
Oh, thank you, Tammy. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really generous of you to share your time. And I think a great place to start would be sharing your personal journey and those keys that you discovered.
Yes. Well, my personal journey started actually when I was 14 years old, and I saw the first coverage of the Ironman World Championships on TV. And what I saw, I really didn't understand. And it wasn't until later that I actually learned what an Ironman actually was, which is a 2.4-mile swim in the ocean, followed by a 112-mile bike ride, followed by a marathon. And it's all done continuously at one time. And what struck me is that I couldn't understand what was driving these athletes to just push themselves beyond what I thought were the physical limits of themselves, and to do whatever it took and then even more to get across the finish line. Example, Julie Moss. So that stayed with me for a long time, and I believe that it really struck an emotional chord deep inside of me, because I thought, well, what if I have what it takes inside me to do an Ironman? And what if I'm just playing small and safe and staying in my comfort zone and not tapping into that capability? And I stayed in that place I stayed in that place for 28 years, because what immediately then followed was something called limiting beliefs, where I said, well, you know, those are elite athletes and they're up here, and I'm a recreational athlete, I'm down here. I couldn't possibly get there. And that fast, I would talk myself out of wanting to pursue the Ironman World Championships. Now, let me be clear. The Ironman World Championships is typically a race that is the best of the best in the entire world. Some 90,000 athletes every year vie for 2,000 coveted spots to compete. And most of them are professional and very talented, naturally talented athletes. And that's not me. I work really hard, and I was always athletic, and it was at a recreational level. So this was a really audacious, big thing, you know, that I wanted to do, and held myself back from that thing through limiting beliefs, which I'm going to go into more in a minute, for 28 years, until in 2010, I learned how to conquer and transform limiting beliefs and unlimit them. And then the 7 keys to greater success in your personal and professional life actually came on my 2-year journey. That's all it took once I went all in, my 2-year journey to compete in the Ironman World Championships and complete that dream. So that's what I'm going to, sorry, Tammy, that's what I'm going to share today. And if you'd like, I can roll right into the first one.
Yeah, if you would, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we're really synced up with the folks that are joining today, and also the folks that sent in questions or answers to the questions that we asked, because we seem to already be on the same page. And it's going to start with this first tip, or this first key, which is in the book, and it's called tapping into the dream. And it's probably helpful, because I'm going to go really fast in the brief time that we have together, so I can give you a great wealth of information. So go ahead and take notes on your side, write as fast as you can. And, you know, Tammy can always connect us after the webinar if you have one-on-one questions or things like that, or you want clarification about anything. And one point of clarification: when I talk about the unconscious mind, just use that as a broad term that encapsulates the subconscious. Okay, a lot of times I get that question, well, is the unconscious different than the subconscious? For our purposes today, let's just use the term unconscious mind. It's actually a more accurate term. And so now I'll start. So tapping into the dream is key number one. And what this means is, from an unconscious mind perspective, when we tap into a dream and then we visualize what it will look like, what it will sound like, and what it will feel like to achieve that dream, and we choose a dream that is big. I mean, big, audacious, scary, outrageous, even ridiculous. I mean, that's what I tapped into with the Ironman World Championships as an amateur athlete. I mean, there were plenty of people who said, you'll never be able to do that. You will never get there. Some of them were my own family members, mind you. Mm-hmm. And yet I tapped into the visual of what it would look, feel, and sound like to compete in that race and to cross the finish line. And I tapped into that dream every single day. That would be the first thing that I would think about and visualize when I woke up, and the last thing that I would think about and visualize when I was retiring for the evening. And it's scientifically proven that when we can tap into the power of our unconscious mind in this way, through what it looks like, what it feels like, what it will sound like to achieve it, then our unconscious mind actually goes into action mode to bring about that thing that we're telling it that we want. It's absolutely amazing, because when I started on that journey, I had no earthly idea how to get there. I mean, I'll even set the perspective even further. I was not a triathlete. I wasn't a swimmer. I could get into a pool and not drown, although there's a funny story in the book about that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't own a road bike. I was basically a recreational runner and a mountain biker. And I had never done anything at this kind of distance or a full-on triathlon. So I really didn't know what I didn't know. And every day I would keep this dream in front of me and tapping into it, and also ask for, the resources and the people that I would need to get there. One of whom was a coach, which I hired immediately. And I had never done that in my life before. And it really made all the difference. So key number one, tap into the dream, specifically what it will look, feel, and sound like to achieve it. And even expand on that, make it more vibrant, more intense as you pursue and get closer to achieving the goal.
Excellent. Visualize it. Mm-hmm. Embrace it. Terrific. What's key number two?
All right. Key number two is conquer limiting beliefs. And the way that we conquer limiting beliefs, I'll get into in just a second. Prior to that, I want to just go back and kind of define limiting beliefs. And it's anytime we want to do something and we very quickly say, oh, well, I can't do that because. Everything that comes after the because, whatever, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough support, I'm not talented enough, whatever comes after that because is the limiting beliefs. And so here's how you conquer them, okay? So at some point, a limiting belief is formed because of a limiting decision that we make. And for me, I'll give you this as an example. My limiting decision was, as I was watching the Ironman World Championships coverage for 28 years, because I would just happen to catch it every single time it was on. I never really knew when it was on, but I would be surfing the channels and, oh, boom, there it was. That's no coincidence. When I would catch it, though, I would go through the same thing, the same thought process where those limiting beliefs would just come right in. Well, they're an elite athlete and I'm a recreational athlete. They're up here, they're naturally gifted and talented. I'm down here, I'm not naturally gifted and talented. I don't have what it takes to get there. And boom, those are limiting beliefs. Okay, so here's what you do with them. First of all, go back to when it was in your life that you made that limiting decision. What was that limiting decision? And it happens instantaneously, okay? So it probably won't take you long to remember what the limiting decision was that you made. Then write that down on a sheet of paper. So just take a regular sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11, and in the left-hand margin, write down your limiting belief. For me, it was, I don't think I have what it takes to get to the Ironman. And then in the right-hand margin, write down the opposite of that belief. I have what it takes to get to the Ironman World Championships. Then the rest of the way that we transform and unlimit our beliefs is we catch ourselves when we are thinking those same limiting beliefs on a daily basis. And let me just share with you what I found in going through this is I would think these limiting thoughts, these limiting beliefs, multiple times a day. Sometimes at the beginning, I would think these thoughts 50 times a day. And I wasn't aware until I did this exercise, and I was keeping track of them. And then I was astounded and came to understand why I was holding myself back, because I was literally just cycling through these limiting beliefs all day long, every day. And that made it real in terms of my unconscious mind. Then it brought about that reality where I would just stop myself from doing it. So recap, identify where your limiting decision was made, write that down along with any other and all limiting beliefs that you have. Left-hand side of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Then on the right-hand side, write the exact opposite of that belief. Then when you catch yourself during the day experiencing those limiting beliefs, actively change it. And for me, what I did was I verbalized my unlimited belief, the exact opposite of the limiting belief. I do have what it takes, or I have what it takes to compete in the Ironman World Championships. Later, and I'll go into this this is in the book, the unlimited version of my limiting belief was, I am a great swimmer and I am a fast runner, because then those things became my limiting beliefs as I progressed through the journey.
So it's like your brain is a muscle and you're having to change your muscle memory in that regard by talking
that's exactly
it into.
Right. Yep, that's a great analogy.
Quickly, let's move into the third key you were going to cover today, and that'll leave us a little time for you to cover some questions you got via email and maybe online.
Yes, great. All right, so the last key is called Do What It Takes and Schedule Equals Goals. So what I found in this journey that's applicable to all of us is once we've tapped into the dream and then we've identified our limiting beliefs and we're actively working to transform and conquer them, the other thing that we need to do then is to take action that is equal to what it's going to take to achieve that dream. So case in point, for me, I was a very focused, probably relatively organized individual when I took up this pursuit. And what I had to do was take it up about 3 more levels. So my schedule had to actually reflect the things that I was going to need to do to achieve my goal, such as prior to pursuing the Ironman World Championships, as I mentioned, I was a recreational athlete. So I would work out about 5 times a week, kind of the typical sort of thing. I would, go to the gym, or I would go for a run, usually Monday through Friday, and then I would take the weekend off. Well, to get to the Ironman, what I quickly discovered is I would have not 1 workout a day, but sometimes up to 3 workouts a day. I would typically do 2 back-to-back in the morning and then 1 last workout at night. And so that was something that was, doing what it takes. Sometimes it was 3 workouts or 2 workouts. And then what I had to do is look at my schedule and figure out how I was going to get up at what became 4 o'clock in the morning so that I actually could get 2 workouts in before I was to be in the office at 8 or 8:30 every day. Then I also had to get enough sleep so that I could perform well in those workouts and continue to progress toward the goal. I also had to fuel my body so it would perform. And let me just share with you, I have not always been the best eater. I love junk food and I love sugar, and I'm a really good baker. So I would love to, eat the fruits of my labor. And so that's something I had to change too. And so the key here is to wrap your head around what it's going to take. So do what it takes to achieve the goal. 3 workouts, fueling, sleep. There were also things on my previous schedule before Ironman that I then had to say no to. Otherwise, it was going to keep me from achieving my dream. And then also putting all of that stuff on my schedule and, really honoring my schedule. So, just keeping to the time boundaries that I would set for things. And that actually forced me to be much more focused with every single task that I was doing. I could no longer just, spend some time goofing off, or, if a task that I had set took twice as long, I literally had to find the time from somewhere else. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to have the time to do that 3rd workout at night. And it was going to mean the difference between achieving my goal and not achieving it.
So embracing your dream first made those sacrifices. Essentially what you did was eliminate those limiting beliefs that we all sort of hit up against, like, oh, I don't have the time. I'm not very good at this, or whatever. Once you changed your mindset, these sacrifices became maybe not easy, but certainly doable.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that, Tammy, because they didn't seem like sacrifices at all.
Right.
It became very easy for me to see then what things I needed to clear out of my schedule and essentially say no to. Right. And it was very easy. I mean, it happened very, very quickly. And then it just became sort of my method of operation. Okay, this is what I do today. This is what I do every week. And, in sharing that dream with other people, they would understand when I said no. I would say, I'm sorry, I don't have the time for that meeting. Let's schedule it a little bit further in the future, when I can find some time. And they would go, oh yeah, cool, I get it. And it really built a bridge with other people, and it made it easy.
Great. Are you willing now to move into some of the questions that you received by email?
Yes, absolutely. Now let me give one other piece of information. Let's call it a bonus, because I find as a business psychology coach, we work with folks at all levels, and mostly they're leaders, whether they're leading themselves in their life or in their academic pursuits or in their job or their business, or they're a CEO of a company. These are a couple common things that I find, and they're based on scientifically proven tenements. Number one is to reframe and to set boundaries. So reframe is a scientific term. And what that means is you're reframing the way you're looking at something, or the way that you're perceiving something. And oftentimes I find that as human beings, when something happens or we're pursuing something, if something doesn't go the way that we saw that it should go, or that we wanted it to go, we think, oh, well, maybe I'm just not meant to achieve that. And what I find that always typically works in that situation is when we reframe. That means we are able to look at all sides of what happened and not assign the meaning to it that, is bad, or, well, this means that I don't have what it takes to do this, or this is someone, or, the universe trying to tell me that I'm not going to be able to do this. No, nothing like that exists. It's just reality, and we've got to find a different way. And when we reframe, it takes that bad meaning out of it. And it also helps us to find another way to do it. I mean, there were lots of times when I had to pivot, during my journey to the Ironman World Championship, so I would ultimately get there. And, what I could have seen as things that were going to stop me, I could have just let them stop me because I thought that that's what they meant. and I did a reframe. Also, set boundaries. I mentioned a moment ago saying no. And sometimes we've got to set those boundaries with ourselves. And sometimes it's with these devices. And I sometimes call these dream killers, because if we're spending a lot of time getting distracted with these things and email and all the other things that we have, you know, when we set a healthy boundary with it, like, hey, I'm only going to check my phone, you know, 3 times a day, or I'm going to turn it off while I'm doing my most important tasks to achieve my goal, then we'll actually set an appropriate positive boundary so that we get what we want. Also, hiring a coach. Now, this is something that's really important, and here's why. There's some new research out there that shows how different segments of the population, meaning different personality types, respond and carry out internal and external expectations. And typically, our internal expectations are these big dreams that we're talking about tapping into. Well, the research says that 43%, so the majority of people out there, need more time to process new ideas and change, and they also need to be held accountable by someone else. And that someone else is a coach. And believe me, I've tried to have, you know, friends hold me accountable or loved ones hold me accountable, and it really doesn't work. It works really well when you have a coach hold you accountable to what you said you would do, and you get to celebrate when you do it with that coach, because your coach is, you know, they're saying, yeah, you did it. And that feels great. And then you want to do more. All right, so that's enough for the bonus. So let me go into the questions. There are many common themes here, so I'm going to run right through them really quickly. And then if you have any points of clarification or anything further, then Tammy, will you get us in touch with one another?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Mr. Kelly Duran is first. And I'm not going to go into the issue in a lot of detail, but basically what you talked about is holding you back. I can tell what will help you is to first tap into your dream, let go of the pride that you're feeling. And Kelly, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Reframe how you're looking at this. You're only looking at it from one perspective. Find another couple or 3 perspectives to look at it from. And then I also want to give you some valuable information that you aren't starting from zero. You have enormous knowledge and experience you're building upon and adding a new piece to it rather than just starting from scratch. Reframe what this means to you, not to anyone else. And tapping into your dream will bring your life's purpose into focus. Then you can live that purpose daily, and you'll be happy and fulfilled every day. All right, Michelle Sanchez. I can tell that you're struggling with limiting beliefs. So I would say step 1, unlimit your beliefs first through the technique that we shared earlier. Then draw boundaries with others to stick to what they cannot cross with you. So in the boundaries that I mentioned a moment ago about setting, sometimes those boundaries are with ourselves and other times they are with other people. And sometimes we have to be real explicit and say, hey, you know what, this is a boundary that I'm setting in place and I'm not going to tolerate you crossing it. And then it's up to us to really follow through with that. And here's what I would say to you specifically. You don't need anyone's approval to be successful. Pardon me. Tap into your dream and then do what it takes. The folks that you're talking about are stuck in their own worries and fears, and it honestly has nothing to do with you. All right. We got a question from Anonymous, and this person anonymously said their biggest challenge right now is being accountable to themselves. And it's easy to say, no, I can do that. I can get to that later or tomorrow. Wow, I hear this a lot. We all do this, right? And so what I find is specifically holding you back in that specific piece is that you're limiting your beliefs, that you don't see and feel and hear how you could do it. even if you have to sort of, step out on that limb. When I was first training for Ironman, I got to tell you, at first I didn't feel like an Ironman. I didn't feel like a swimmer. I didn't feel like a triathlete. And I had to sort of put that on as a coat, if you will, and wear it around until it felt comfortable, until it felt like my own skin. And sometimes that's what we have to do when we're starting something new. So, and that goes right along with unlimiting your beliefs and tapping into the dream. Then just take those and chunk them down into what it takes, into daily steps, daily bite-sized steps. All right, then we had another anonymous, which is, how would you recommend breaking down a goal to make it attainable? And my 2 cents on that is, chunk it down to what needs to be done today, only today, and then leave tomorrow for tomorrow. You can figure that out tomorrow. Tap into the dream first, and it's got to be a dream that's big enough that you don't automatically know that you can do it. Like, this dream has to really challenge and stretch you, maybe in a way that has never happened before. So tap into that first, what it will look, or what it will look, sound, and feel like to achieve it. Then chunk it down into those bite-sized steps today, just for today. Then also get some sort of outside accountability, like a coach. Am I going too fast, Tammy?
No, you're doing great.
Okay. Natalie Hantke. Specifically, you said what's holding you back is too many responsibilities. And as I talked about before on Do What It Takes, what's going to help you here is to tap into the dream first, specifically of the vacation that you want, and then do what it takes to get there. Set the vacation, go ahead and book it, and then work backward from there on what it's going to take to get there. We work like nobody's business with a heightened level of efficiency when we are getting ready to go on vacation. And, we could operate that way all the time if we chose to, and be highly efficient. All right. Also, unlimit your beliefs and do what it takes with those exercises that we shared earlier. This will actually whittle down your responsibilities and feeling like you have a lack of time. Because actually, you know what? We all have 24 hours in a day, and it's really just how we choose to spend those 24 hours and what we can get accomplished. All right, how are we doing on time?
We have about 4 minutes.
Okay, I have 1, 2, 3. I have 4 more, which it's your choice. We can either go through the 4, or we can take a couple of live ones, and I can connect with these other 4 people and respond to them.
I would like to turn to the folks who are on the line, if you don't mind, if there's any questions out there.
Yeah.
I had muted everyone in advance at the beginning of this webinar, but if you have a question, please just feel free to unmute yourself and fire away for Karen.
Hello, Karen.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Kelly, and you answered my question, and I very much appreciate your feedback.
Uh-huh.
And, I want to ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is your, prior to you starting your business, what was your professional background and your education background that helped you realize that perhaps being an entrepreneur was the answer for you?
That's a great question, Kelly. It was through discovery, evolution and discovery. I had grown up with the belief that I would be best suited for climbing the corporate ladder and having a safe and secure kind of job, or at least what I thought that was in my mind, and that at the time was working for a big company and climbing the ladder and being successful. I remember one conversation that I had with my boyfriend at the time, who was a total entrepreneur, and he explained to me that it was so much better to be an entrepreneur because you were in charge of your own destiny, and you could set your own hours, and you could, navigate your own course. And it was completely lost on me at the time. I couldn't relate to it. And then over time, it sort of percolated. And once I also saw or experienced some, not so great things that can sometimes happen in big companies, reorganizations and layoffs and those kinds of things, or even the proverbial, just getting a boss that wasn't so great, which I think we can all attest to at some time or another. That really showed me through that evolutionary process that, wow, maybe I am much better suited to being an entrepreneur. And then a couple of, once I started to recognize that and think about it more, then it was pretty incredible how, the universe or your unconscious mind or all of it works to bring you some opportunities like that, some openings where you can either choose to step through them and investigate and see where they go, or, you can kind of play it safe in your own previous space. So I actually took those openers and stepped through them. And really, that led to, I think, the life and the business person I was supposed to become, which is more of an entrepreneur.
Great. And thank you, Karen. So if you don't mind, what was your profession in the corporate world?
So I originally started, career number one was in fashion, and I got into management in that rather quickly at a very young age. And then I transitioned going bigger into commercial real estate, and loved that for a long time, and then actually wanted to do other things. So that's when I transitioned into other industries, other businesses, always wanting to, work with big high level thinkers, because I could think at a high level and think bigger. And so, I would say it doesn't necessarily matter, what the entry point is or the on-ramp. The importance, I think, is to keep in mind, what do you really want this to be every day? I mean, what do you feel like is your purpose? And then once you discover what your purpose is, I think it's very easy to, translate that into, okay, well, what could I do with that every day?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly.
Karen, we are at the top of the hour. It's up to you if you want to take another question or two, or if we want to plan a part two. I'm putting you right on the spot here.
Well, why don't we do it this way? If there's more than one question remaining, first of all, I'll take the extra time and answer the question. And if there's more than that, hey, just raise your hand and say, I have a question, and then we can set up a part two.
That sounds great. Why don't we do this? We'll take one more question from the audience, and then I will put a message out to all of our participants and kind of gauge whether there's an interest in a part two.
Okay.
That works for you?
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay, is there another question out there? This will be our last one. Maybe not. You may have covered all the bases, Karen. I will still put that offer out to folks because I've really enjoyed hearing from you and learning from you, conversing with you, and I think others might appreciate a part two. So I'll gauge that interest. But in the meantime, I want to thank all of our participants who joined us today, and especially you, Karen, for sharing your wisdom. We learned right along with you as you went through this journey. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Really love being here with all the NAU participants. Thank you.
Yes, and one final note for those who aren't aware, Karen will be our graduation speaker, our keynote speaker at the Rapid City graduation. So for our Rapid City participants online, mark your calendars for that. There will be another opportunity to hear from Karen.
Thank you. Hey, Tammy, one more thing.
Yep.
Are you giving away the book?
I will do that offline and let everyone know who won. I want to be able to do it fairly, and I couldn't manage that while we were talking. So,
okay.
I will be giving away a book though, and I have the full roster in front of me, so I'll do that this afternoon.
Oh, all right. Exciting.
Yes.
Right. Well, congratulations to whoever wins the book, and I'm sure Tammy can get us in touch if you have any questions, or I'd love to hear your ahas, as with everyone who participated today.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Karen. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.